Billy here. Gonna do maybe this will be short. I don't know how long it's gonna be. We'll see. Maybe short, maybe long, maybe somewhere in between. A little palate cleanser, but not really. It's about literature. How literature helps you think. And I'm gonna make some recommendations. And I'm gonna share something that I just was ruminating on earlier. Well, last night. Two of the most remarkable books that I have ever read uh, are really not in the Western canon. Most people have never heard of them. I've read the whole 5 Foot Shelf. I've read a lot of it twice. I'm a voracious reader. I don't have much time anymore, but I used to read in all my spare time, all of it. And I like reading, and I read very carefully. And I read every. If I find something really interesting, I go find all the books about the author and about the book itself and see what other people think of it. I used to have a library of literary criticism, several volumes. Most of it was from the going from the early 19th century till the early 20th. Mark Twain, some of his best works was his criticism of people like Nathaniel Hawthorne. There's posers and there's phonies in literature just like there is in everything else. Anyway, these two remarkable books, you're probably waiting for me to tell you what they are, right? Don't worry, I won't forget. Anyway, oh yeah, I'm just messing with you. Uh, One of them is French. I can't read French. I read a translation of it. It's called, into French, it was La Disparition. I probably mispronounce it, but I'm not French. It was translated to a void in English because I'm pretty sure in French, La Disparition does not contain the letter E. This is a novel, came out in the mid 60s, maybe 67 or 68, during all that turmoil in France. It was written by a puzzle maker, a fellow by the name of Georges Perec. I saw a picture of him. He looked exactly like my dad. My dad was half Dutch and quarter Irish and a quarter English. But the guy looked just like him. Georges Perec wrote this book, and it was in the style of the novels at the time, which was the murder mystery, the filthy rich people, the butler did it, that sort of thing. That's troll feed. But he wrote one, and he wrote the whole thing without using any word, not even a single word that used the letter E in it. That was the framework that he put for himself, an artificial frame to hang things on, an artistic restriction to not use a word with the letter E. And he wrote it, and it reads just fine. If you didn't know the trick, it'd be a while before you noticed it. And some people would probably never figure it out. It's strange phrasing and word music, and it wasn't bizarre, it was beautiful. Putting an artificial restriction on something brings that out a lot of times. And not only that, he incorporated this philosophy of art and this philosophy of meaning and existential meaning of something's missing. And because we're looking for it and it's not in here, we don't even know what it is because we've never seen it. It's deep. It's so freaking deep. And it's woven into a stupid mid 60s murder mystery. I remember the first sentences of Anton Vowell is missing. Now, Vowell is the guy's last name. You can spell it any way you like. It's spelled without an E. The translator had to have been a freaking genius to have been able to translate that from French to English without using a single word containing the letter E. It's not that long. It's well worth a read. It's amazing. Anyway, the other one, and just as important, was written by a guy with a weird name. Ring Lardner. I think he was a Hoosier or somebody around my area where I grew up, small town Michigan, Indiana, somewhere around in there. It's called The Haircut. It's a short story. It's not even a novel. It's a short story called The Haircut. And the perspective is, it's a monologue. Hey, how you doing there? Come on in. I've never seen you around before here. Welcome. I'll give you. What kind of haircut can I do you for? Okay, so you're going into a barber shop. It's your perspective. The barber's talking to you. I think there's some other people in there, and they talk a little bit too, but mainly the barber. It might be all the barber. It's been years since I read it. But I grew up at the tail end of that era, where you had a barber, a small town barber, and men would meet at the barber shop and get their hair cut and get a shave sometimes, and they'd hang out in there and talk. And the barber, it was his job not only to shave you, make you comfortable, cut your hair, make you look nice, but also had this constant banter. He had to keep things lively, keep things going. And so he got customers. If he had competition, he had to be good at talk. The barber in my hometown was still practicing that tradition. His dad was ancient. My earliest memories, the first time I ever remember going into a barber shop, the old man was still alive. He was in his 80s and he's still cutting hair, and his son's right next to him. They each got their own chairs, and they're giving people shaves, and all the old farts are sitting in there. And the younger one's name was Elmer. I went to school with some of his kids. All his kids were older than me, except one. He had five boys, I think, and one girl. And their names all started with the S. Anyway, Elmer, he was great. That banter. He'd just keep it going and going and going. He'd punctuate everything, and his laugh was just, I can't even imitate it. And he'd be cutting people's hair, he'd be shaving them, and just talking, hey, about those cubbies. Oh, what's his face? He got it. And he just goes on and on the whole time. But it's fascinating to listen to. It's not insipid. There's a lot of good humor and even some depth in it. We really lost something. Except the brothers, now the Africans, they kept their barbershops. They still got it. They still got the tradition. But for some reason, the white people lost it. I don't know why. Hippies, I think. The hairstylist and the women took over barbering because people have to have, like glam rock hair back in the 70s. Anyway, that book is all a monologue of a barber to a stranger in town. And he's telling about, I see that mug up there. That's old Jimbo. Old Jimbo, well, he's not with us anymore. He's a character, that Jimbo. Everybody liked Jim. He just made this town an uproar all the time. And you got to read this book. As the barber describes Jimbo, his beloved Jimbo that everybody thought so highly of, you start figuring out real quick the man was a monster. A horrible, sadistic, psychopathic monster. But everybody in town thought he was great. Gotta read this book, because that's what's going on right now. It's social contract. It's narrative. It's all based on lies. People that are just a little corrupt like to have this projection of something for comfort. I mean, there's a million ways to see it in there. That's a good book to read right now, because that's what a lot of people are doing. And really, at the end of the book, you know full well what a awful, sadistic, horrible monster old Jim was, and what happened to him. I'm not going to spoil it for you. He deserved it. And they didn't have a clue. They thought it was an accident because of the way they thought, the way they chose to think about this thing. They chose to think it. I have more contempt for the people that admire old Jim Bob, or not Jim Bob, excuse me, Jimmy, James, Jimbo, the town wag, the rounder, the prankster, the one that did sadistic, awful pranks that did serious damage to people. But he's just a character, He's just having a good time. Well, everybody enjoys that. Those people are worse than he was. Kind of makes you understand the wisdom of hell. It's just awful. And some people are deceived. They grow up in that, and that's all they see, and that's the way life is. maybe they'd be snapped out of it, but no, this is a very telling book. I highly recommend it. Actually, it's not even a book. The Haircut is a short story. It's a long short story, but you can read it at one sitting. It's well worth the time. It helps give you an understanding of people. It's really, it's not very uplifting, but it's truth. And if you're a writer or you're an artist, or even if you're not, if you're into a little bit of philosophy, I highly recommend A Void by George Perec. Anyway, it's a couple of little literary recommendations. Who reads now, right? That's one of the problems. Reading has been supplanted by television. I'm a snob, okay? I am a snob about my media. Literature is very superior. Anyway, that's it. I'll cut this off now. Uncle Bill D signing out. Hope you got something from it. Read those books, especially The Haircut. It's not even a book, it's a story. It's free. You don't even have to buy it. There's PDFs of it. There's websites where you can read it for free. Ring Lardner. I'm pretty sure that's it. Ring Lardner, The Haircut. Read it. That's your assignment. I gotta get to work on my geopolitical lessons. Hope to release one before too late today. Well, it's daytime here. You guys are all probably asleep. You're gonna see this when you get up in the morning, probably. Have a good day. Uncle Bill D signing out.